Hello, everyone. Out there hanging out in the Ecamm fam. I am live with Andrew, who's being really great, today. because I am hearing myself twice, and I cannot figure out what I've done. So I'm hoping that maybe people watching can give me a hand. All right, I'm gonna just open up to make sure I have my comments open. All right, so we have brilliant people here in the chat. We have Richard and Paul. Dan's here. Parker's here. The whole crew is here. Are you friends listening live? Hearing me twice. I'm gonna turn on live demo mode.
Paul says he's hearing you twice too. Yep.
Are you talking? We'll see if they're hearing you twice.
How about now? Can you guys hear me? Welcome to a live stream. Love it. I see. I forgot. I wore the wrong shirt, Katie. So.
All right, Maggie says that she's hearing me twice as well. Okay. Well.
So it seems to be only for Katie.
You know what? Hey, Luis, do you want to jump on as an additional guest and see if you can talk me through it? I sound very important. I'm in a massive stadium. I know, it's very true.
Tech support.
Ain't nobody got
Hello,
time for
tech
that.
support. Hello, tech support. All right, I'm gonna go. Oh, Luis has 1 sec. All right.
Luis to the rescue.
Luis, if you give me a call, I am ecamm.tv/callkatie. Live tech support coming. Well, friends, either we'll figure it out now live, or we'll figure it out and then Andrew will have to come back for a real thing.
It's quite all right. Okay. I'm happy to be the guinea pig.
I want to know.
20 some years in tech support, so just not always on the Mac side. See, I my default was blame it on Windows, but
I know, stupid Windows. This is a Windows problem. Okay, here's what I've done for those keeping tabs. So I have these awesome headphones that Doc recommended. You can see Katie's voice is coming through. All right, see. Okay. So both the RCP and interview. Okay.
Could it possibly be on
You're
the
right.
mic?
I'm doubled in here.
Okay.
Oh, you may have figured it out. How did I do that then, Paul? How do I agree. I see the two lines. All right, let's go over here. Is it under preferences? Like interview preferences? Guest view broadcast interview setting. Turn off. Because I have this. Test. No. Private chat. Oh, all right. I don't want to lose Andrew. Does it have to do? Does it have to do with musician mode? System audio. Well, now I only see one bar in the interview. All right, Andrew, I'm going to hang up. I need to turn off musician mode. Call back in a couple minutes.
Sounds good.
All right. I'll lose Andrew. We're going to turn test. Oh, I don't hear myself echoing anymore. All right. Okay, I'm going to go back over into preferences. I'm going to go back into interview. That's off. It only happens when we have a full moon. Oh, you guys are the best. I love that you're hanging out here with me. We're gonna figure this out together because there's nothing more embarrassing than being in these kinds of situations and not knowing what to do. So I will be embarrassed for you and with you. All right. So now we got to see if that makes a difference. All right, Andrew.
Did we get it working?
Oh my goodness, I think we might be there. Friends? Friends listening? Are we there? I'm not wearing headphones, which feels very dangerous. But hey, if I'm not hearing myself twice. So you hear me fine, Andrew, correct?
I can hear you loud and clear.
All right. All right.
Luis said we're good to go. Paul said we're good to go.
Oh my goodness. All right. All right. I think we're there. Yay! Thank you, Paul, for catching that. So, yeah, for everyone that's playing along, Paul was up here and noticed in the interview window when I was talking, it was showing. So it's so funny with audio that you actually are looking for it as much as you're hearing it. I feel like that's something that I have been learning. I won't say that I've all the way learned since I just totally screwed it up, but good. Everyone says we're good. All right, we're gonna shoot over back out of live demo mode. All right. It feels weird not having headphones on, but that's okay. Shut down live demo. All right, here we go. Welcome to Meet the Fam. I'm not going to do an intro with Andrew off screen since he's been really, really, really patient, but we're so excited that Andrew is here and excited to be hanging out with everyone. So throw Q and colon in front of any questions that you have for Andrew, but let's kick it off. Andrew, I feel like you've been with the Ecamm fam for a while now, but how did you come to find us? How long have you actually been part of the Ecamm fam?
You know, my live streaming journey actually started on April Fool's Day of 2020
That's
with
an
OBS,
incredible anniversary.
Yes.
Well, it's okay. You were fooling yourself into believing that OBS was going to get there for you.
Exactly. You know, it was free. I'm like, okay, I have a webcam. I got a, Logitech C920 and a Blue Yeti mic. Let's go. I needed some outlet. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I started weekly live streaming on April Fool's Day.
I love it.
Came across the Ecamm probably in June. Signed up in July and been a avid user ever since. So, yeah, I use it for everything.
That's incredible. And so are you still live streaming on a regular basis? Have you kept up weekly since that April Fool's date, or have things changed over the last few years?
It's kind of gone off and on. I've gotten, kind of burned out a few times. Like
Sure.
last year, I took a good chunk of the year off, believe it or not.
Nice.
We moved into a new house. I was renovating. It was just, yeah, lots going on. But yeah, I'm trying to get back to our weekly live streams and trying to do something different to change it up now. Like this year, I started doing Friday jam sessions, which were just, I get on and talk about whatever, ClickUp, Canva, podcasting, live streaming, and just listen to some tunes. Just let Epidemic Sound roll. But people seem to like that one. I kind of just did it as a test to see how it would go.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to try to bring that one back. So
That's actually a really great idea. We've done that a few times, like closed in Discord, but we should do some more just like public, maybe audio tech checking as we're going.
yeah,
But yeah, doing some of those public sessions where most of us in this space are using so many of these tools, and even if we're using them on a regular basis, it's sometimes really nice to see like how other people are working through things that are coming up or creating you know YouTube thumbnails, for example, in Canva, or all of these different processes. It's nice to have a visual and to be able to ask questions and work collaboratively. That's really clever. I think that's a really fun way to go about it. And I realized we didn't do an intro, so maybe you could tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do. You work
yeah,
with entrepreneurs and small businesses, but a little bit of background would be great.
yeah. I grew up in a small steel coal town, about 45 minutes out of Pittsburgh. Big family.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 kids. So I knew that, I didn't want to do steel, didn't want to do coal, didn't want to do what my dad did, which was rail. I'm like, I want to do something different. The entrepreneurial bug bit me when I was 8 years old. I remember my brother and my cousins started a candy making business. And between that and doing lawns in the summer. I remember riding out of Hills Department Store on my brand new bike that I bought myself.
That is so
And I was
cool.
like, okay, that's what I want to do forever. Like, I want to write my own ticket. I want to do my own thing. I don't want somebody else calling the shots. But yeah, I've pretty much been running businesses since. I make a terrible employee, I've found. Um, I'm the
No one
worst kind
hire
of
Andrew.
employee.
He's a terrible employee.
I fully admit that to people. I'm like, I've either, quit in the first couple days or, gone down in a blaze of glory, gone out guns blazing. So, but yeah, pretty much, started in the tech industry, and let's see, that bit me in probably the 90s, late 90s.
That's awesome.
So I was in the dot-com boom. I was up where you're at, working in Boston. We
Oh,
had an
cool.
office in Portland, Maine.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I worked in the tech industry, and pretty much either been in tech or cars since then. So now I've stumbled on, since I got out of that tech industry in 2014. I sold my IT business. Um, Mainly just been coaching people how to run businesses and how to build systems and process. That's kind of my jam. And LinkedIn, teaching people how to do LinkedIn. Yeah, that was an accidental thing that I ran into, actually, teaching LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I used it a lot to grow my IT business,
Mhm.
and kind of used between that and live in-person events. I stumbled onto kind of a formula for LinkedIn that worked really good, especially the last 2 years we had our IT business. I doubled sales both of the last 2 years, and then just decided to sell and do something different. Um, yeah, I just have started having people reach out in the IT industry, people that I knew, 20, 30 years in the IT industry. And they were like, okay, can you teach me this LinkedIn thing? So I was like, okay. So I started my first course of LinkedIn in 2014, at the
Wow.
end of 2014.
That's great.
So, but yeah, anyway,
Awesome.
so
Yeah.
there's a
No,
little bit about.
that's incredible. I know LinkedIn is one of those spaces that I feel like many of us are trying to get better at and see a ton of potential there, but it does function so differently from a lot of the other platforms, especially if if you've come from like a Facebook background, or you're used to. It's like a lot of the stuff is similar, so it feels like it'll work the same, but doesn't. So I'd love to hear
Yeah,
some of the strategies that you found that have worked well there. Have you been live streaming on LinkedIn?
I have. That's where I started. That's where most of my audience is still at.
Yeah.
Is from LinkedIn. I'm trying to branch out some on YouTube now.
Yeah.
But yeah, LinkedIn for me was the way that I kind of stumbled across it was I've been around LinkedIn since 2006. I was one of those early adopters, but like everybody, I couldn't figure it out. Um, then it was like 2012. I was doing I had a lunch and learn, in-person lunch and learn coming up.
Mhm.
And if those of you who don't know what lunch and learn is, basically, we teach people over lunch and feed them. So we kind of bribe them to show up.
Yep.
But I was having a hard time filling this lunch and learn, and normally I didn't really have a problem doing that. So, and I remember it vividly. It was a Wednesday night, so I decided I was going to message a bunch of people that I was connected to on LinkedIn just to see what would happen. So I sent a message inviting people to the lunch and learn, and then logged off and went home. Came in the next morning, and my LinkedIn inbox was full. I had probably 50 or 60
Wow.
messages, which was, if you're in marketing, you're like, okay, that's very, that kind of response rate was awesome, you
Yeah,
know.
seriously. Yeah.
And it was one right after another. Thanks for inviting me. I can't make it to this one, but please invite me to the next one. That seemed to be a common theme. So I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this. Then
Mhm.
I looked at our registrations, and we had 25, 30 people registered for an in-person event. And I was like, hmm. So we tried that again when I ran the next quarter. We started with LinkedIn, and we filled the entire room off of my LinkedIn list. Um,
Wow.
and I was like, okay, maybe there is something to this. So I started documenting that process.
Mhm.
Uh, I was just connecting with people and then inviting them to coffee. Like was just a very happenstance, process. I would spend Thursday afternoon, connecting with people at Starbucks or the local coffee shop
Wow.
just to talk about them and talk about where I was at the time was Columbus, Ohio, where, about the business community in Columbus. And you start to make friendships and you start to get referrals. You start to get a lot of business come your way just from being a human being.
Yep.
And that was, I still to this day teach tech folks to do that, but we're introverts by nature. So we don't, like to go. But I loved it. It was a chance to meet people and it was a chance to really talk about their needs and find out what their needs were, which guess what, by the way, told me exactly how to market to them because I
Right?
found
Yeah.
out what their needs were
Yep.
in their language from an informal coffee meeting.
Yeah,
Um,
it really never ceases to amaze me that it's the same thing over and over again. Every conversation that I have, whether it's on this show or, in our community space or even just with my personal and professional networks, it like the times where we are able to be ourselves and put ourselves out there and make time for conversations and for networking and for getting to know other people better are the times where we learn the most, are able to drive the most amount of leads, are able to it really, it's neat that it's that simple. And I'm sure it doesn't feel that simple to many of us, but yeah, it really just being able to make yourself available. And again, like, tools like Ecamm, not to promote since most of you are Ecamm fam customers anyway, but it is really, we're in a kind of a neat time in in the world where we have access to all of these tools where we can, even if we're not able as you did to be like physically in person with people, on a regular basis, being able to do, a live stream, like you were saying, putting yourself kind of out there and just, letting people ask questions and join you, or, or chatting back and forth, or having like a networking time, or being part of any of these Facebook groups, or, really making ourselves available. I think there's a lot of different ways you can do that these days. So yeah, it's really smart. I think like I said, I think it works in a number of different ways and places. So definitely on LinkedIn, but certainly in other spaces as well.
yeah, live streaming, now that's kind of one of those hidden blessings of COVID. Like this
Yep.
medium is now fully accepted now.
Yep.
And I'm like, I think about what I could have done a decade ago
Yep.
with this medium being accepted. You reach a larger audience. You're able to talk to a lot more people through this. And that's why I did the in-person,
Yeah.
events because nobody was doing them. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's a chance to get in front of people, to educate, to build a community. And now I get to do it on a much, much, much larger scale
Yeah.
with live streaming.
Yeah. So how did you, I think one of the big like concerns that people have as they're trying to test out this kind of strategy is, how do I do it in a way that where I can still create boundaries, right? So it's like, how can I give of myself and, and try to set up, as many of these kinds of one-on-one or small group opportunities to be able to actually get to know people better without, my inbox getting like so full, or, or I just feel like I'm spending all of my time there. How are you able to kind of balance that out, or what advice do you have in trying to find that balance?
The interesting thing with when I started live streaming is I did not go into it with the idea of getting leads or closing sales.
Sure.
Like it was strictly at that time, like I said, it was, 2 weeks into global lockdown. So I was
Yeah.
like, I thought back to what the last recession in 2008 taught me.
Hmm.
I had a 4-year-old IT business, a 4-year-old kid at home, and I was like, okay, what do I do now? How do I
Yeah.
connect with other entrepreneurs? Like, how do I have that community? And that's what I wanted to do at that point in time because I know what it felt like. I was like, I know how lonely that feels. And a global pandemic, I mean, no one's ever gone through that.
Yeah.
So I started from that, was just getting on there, telling my story, things that I learned in running business, things that I learned good, things that I learned bad. And, we learned the most from the mistakes that we made.
Yep.
But it was an interesting dynamic that I started to build an audience accidentally. And I remember one week, probably 3 weeks into it, uh, I lost my voice. So I didn't do a show.
Oh no.
And I had like 6 people were like, "Hey, where's the show? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Huh." So it was interesting that just being on there, being a person, answering people's questions, and
Yep.
just trying to be helpful, that brought business. So
Yeah, Doc says,
yeah,
say it again. Starting with pure motives will get you leads. Yeah, no, I hope everyone hears this from us at Ecamm as much as possible, and certainly from everyone we've spoken to. But being helpful and like understanding what people's needs are, and creating an environment of support is how you will build a business, is how you will build a network of followers and fans. If you go into it just thinking you're going to make an insane amount of money, or you're going into it with that kind of sales mentality, you're not going to win at any of this. You really need to be thinking about what the need is and how you can help and serve other people. Um,
yeah, because it was like I didn't go into it with trying to be a content creator. Like I'm
yeah.
a tech nerd. Like I'm an introverted tech nerd. So this was very.
Yeah.
My wife was like, she's like looking at me when I was doing those, and she's like, how, that's not you. And I knew I was pushing myself because I needed it as much as the people needed it.
Yep.
Our audience needed to hear it.
Yep.
And that was the interesting thing. I still don't sell anything on our live streams, but yet I get business every single month from
Yeah.
people that watch my live streams and listen to the podcast. And again, that is probably the biggest quote unquote marketing strategy has been live streaming. And I will preach this from the rooftops, especially in the tech industry. I'm like, there's nobody doing it. I'm like, you have a chance to educate about a topic that people don't really know about, and educate and build an audience in such a way where people know, like, and trust you well before you get into a sales situation. I'm
Yeah.
like, there is nothing out there that you can do that's basically free that will allow you that kind of know, like, and trust.
Yeah, and you
And
never know who's watching either. I've experienced this a lot in the last couple of years here, where you know, friends of mine or contacts that I have had for years who I don't speak to often, will ask me questions now about live streaming or podcasting, or how to get up and running with these kinds of things, and I never would have thought it was of interest to them. It was just content that I was sharing because I'm passionate about it, and because it's sort of fun to let people know kind of what I'm up to. And yeah, it is amazing. I think it's really nice how you phrase that. Like, you sort of started from this lunch and learn environment, and I feel like there's a magic in that lunch and learn, and it feels like live streaming is kind of a digital side of that, where it's like it's available, it's there, you're welcome to grab your lunch and grab your food and come and join. You don't have to be vocal or ask questions, but there are people there that just want the opportunity to be able to learn something new, or connect with other people, or feel like they're part of something. And I think you're facilitating that opportunity for folks.
yeah, it's incredible what you can do with live streaming that you can't do with an in-person event.
Yeah.
And like, you literally, like, there's much less planning. My lunch and learn event, I had a 6-week checklist. Like,
Yeah.
there's things you have to do for 6 straight weeks
Yeah.
to make that in-person event successful.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, okay, whenever I feel like going live, I can just flip the camera on, I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, yeah, people will lurk. That's the interesting the thing that I found, that I
Yeah.
still get people that I connected with a decade ago in the IT field
Mm-hmm.
that are in a different place, remembered me, and will reach out to me on LinkedIn asking for IT help. So
Yeah.
now I just refer them off to people. So, but again, 10 years later, LinkedIn's still paying for itself in
Yeah.
spades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
And
really
again, you just have to be consistent. So,
Yeah, it's a cool platform. I've really been enjoying it, and shout out to people like you, Andrew, and to Dan, who's in the comments, who have been kind of helping to kind of give me pointers along the way. Or I've been watching like what some of you have been up to and creating. Rob Balasabas is another great one that I follow
yep.
on LinkedIn, where I just love the like thought leadership, or interesting points and things that come out of some of the people that I follow on LinkedIn, that don't, those sorts of insights don't exist on other platforms. And I think so often we forget that, because there's just so many different, like, of these social tools out there that we've all kind of, because we're so busy, we've gotten into this habit of just like, one message out across all these different platforms. But there is a
Yep.
different level of intention and a different audience that exists. And I think LinkedIn is a great place for really being able to remind people of the things that resonate professionally, right? So like, what are the things that are helping them achieve goals in their in their space, and especially all the entrepreneurs, because by and large they're by themselves, right? Or in they have very small teams, and so being able to have that network and that support system on a platform like LinkedIn is really huge. Entrepreneurs are probably one of those groups that don't, they need that, like those, like that lunch and learn environment, that live stream space, that community, because they're many times wearing multiple hats and having to do things that may not be like the thing that they are the best at, right? They have to be HR and a CEO and like a programmer and the marketing person. So it's nice to be able to have those people to turn to and ask questions of.
Yeah, and that's the battle of the underdog. That's who I serve, underdog entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
I turn them into calm, unstoppable CEOs. That's kind of my
I love it.
mantra. And you do it through systems and process. You do it by thinking outside of when everybody zigs, you zag,
Yep.
and that has always served me well. You model and study success, but I don't necessarily need to follow it exactly to get where I want to go, and that's okay. And embracing that you're doing what is necessary for you, not what's necessary for somebody else, not living in somebody else's shoes. So, but yeah, LinkedIn, it's just an amazing. I'm getting into the YouTube after I met you at People of Video and Doc.
Yeah.
Just some of the takeaways there, just testing some things out on the YouTube side,
Yep.
and it was interesting. I did a series of ClickUp videos at the end of December, right before Christmas,
Yeah.
just to see what would happen. And it's taken off. Like literally, I still get subscribers, and like this past week, where people are like, they'll binge watch your content. Then all of a sudden, they're listening to your podcast, they're watching your previous live
Yeah.
streams. I'm like, I didn't sell anybody anything. Like and we've gotten production business out of it. We've gotten coaching and consulting out of it. Again, just I guess it's accidentally intentional.
It is.
Is
It's
how
accidentally intentional. I think it's a mindset, right? So if
Yeah.
you've helped to, if someone has found you because they were trying to solve a problem, or they were researching something that they had a need for, and you help them in a way that that they wanted to be helped, or what the advice you gave them solved a problem, or got them to a different point, or made them look smart in front of a boss, or solve that thing, then that's a good feeling, right? So that's like a benefit that they get, and then they want to be able to seek you out in all of the other different places in case there's other valuable information that they can learn from, or other problems that you can solve, or other advice that you can give. So yeah, it it might be slightly more complicated to think about it from a like one person at a time, because we're always way too busy and doing way too many things, and we're like, no, I just need to reach as many people as I possibly can, to convince them. But it really is those like you know small steps in creating that process that's sustainable, and and really like having those individual relationships. That's how we all grow. So yeah, I think it's really huge to be able thinking like that, especially in the space that you're in, where again you're dealing with people who are isolated in a lot of ways, and and need to be able to have a good support system. So you've kind of facilitated that, which I think is huge. So
Yeah, that
as
was
you
my big takeaway from People of Video was create for people, not algorithm.
create for
Like that,
people,
and I'm
not
like, okay,
algorithms.
how do I do that? So
Yeah, absolutely. And we spoke last week on the Flow podcast about all the AI tools, right? And it's the same mentality there. Like, we should be using all of these tools and and systems, and amazing technology like live streaming, for example, to facilitate and to communicate and to build community and to create efficiencies, right? It's like what we are best at as people are all of those people things, right? So if you can use the tools really effectively, they're not there to take over and to completely do everything that a human can do. They're there to get all of the other like stuff out of the way so that we can spend time with each other and help each other and yeah, like solve problems and make each other better. And I think it's really huge. And those of us who are having fun in this space and winning in this space are those that can kind of use those tools really effectively and figure out ways to make systems to get all of the kind of stuff out of the way so we can focus on what matters.
That's
Doc
the
wants to know
stuff
if
I
you're
nerd
coming to
out on.
Creator Camp. Doc wants to see you in
I'm
person.
trying to rearrange my schedule right now,
Awesome.
Doc. So we had my wife and I had a trip planned, so we're trying to
Oh no,
maneuver
sorry.
around that. And no, that's
Yeah,
okay
I know
because this
October's a
might
busy
work
time
out.
of year. Good. Yeah, that would be awesome.
I drug her along to People of Video with me, and she only came because we were continuing on to Maine to visit
Yeah.
my brother and my mom and dad. So we might use this as an excuse to go north again. So
There
who
you
knows?
go.
So
There you
we'll go
go.
leaf peeping again. So
Yeah, yeah, that was my thought. I was like, well, New England is a beautiful place in the fall, and if we make our event starting on Wednesday but done on Friday, then anyone that wants to just visit can continue on with sightseeing and be tourists
yeah,
in town. So yeah, that'll be fantastic. I love it. So talk me through some of the so you get to work with a lot of people who likely also are in the chat, right? So what are some of the top questions that you see from entrepreneurs and small business owners as they're wanting to work with you? Like what are their pain points that you're helping to solve?
most of them come from just being like you said. We wear many hats as an entrepreneur, and most of us are coming at that from an underdog role where we weren't gifted a bunch of money to start a business. You kind of have to get scrappy and
Yep.
bootstrap and figure out different ways of doing things. But where I find that most of the problems come is just the overwhelm when they open up ClickUp or whatever they're using as a to-do
Guilty.
list, and they
Yep.
see all those things they have to do. And then it's like, how they just kind of go in, they freeze. So how do I help people? That's really where I start is I help you manage your day first. Because if you can't figure out what it is you're supposed to be working on next that's going to have the most impact,
Yeah.
and then we go by default. We do the things that are easiest. We check email, and when we get into something tough, then we're like, okay, I need a break. Let's go over to Facebook. Okay, when we're done with
Yeah.
that, okay, just jump on the disc. We do things as entrepreneurs that kind of derail our success a lot of times.
Yeah.
So that's where I kind of have built a calm business framework, and most of that foundational stuff is unlearning habits,
Oh, yeah.
unlearning what people tell you success is, and unlearning what people tell you a business should look like. Because
Yeah.
for me, all of the business ideas, the ways of running business that we've been taught all these years were from the Industrial Revolution or from the 90s when it was, all of the, get rich quick stuff and people just wanted to make that quick dollar.
Hmm.
I'm about creating a business around, and that is the awesome thing with things like Ecamm and tools that we have now. You could create the exact business that you want.
Yeah.
And for me, nobody said you had to grow into this multinational corporation. Like, if you just want to run a solopreneur and work from your house, like, do it. Like, you can totally do that. And that's been the norm. I kind of bought into that whole hustle and grind mentality,
Mm.
back in the late 90s, early 2000s. But at a point, you start writing checks that your body can't cash, especially when we get older. It's a famous Top Gun scene. Um, but that's what I teach people: how to manage their day, how to manage their calendar, how to manage all of the things. And like you said, create systems and process and automations that work for you, because that's what technology is supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's supposed to make our jobs easier. But unfortunately, we don't take enough time to create that infrastructure and create that foundation, that we just go grab another tool that promises that it's going to solve that problem for us.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Um,
And we're like in an environment right now where there's, hundreds, if not thousands of new tools that are being launched on a regular basis. And especially if you're, and I'm not an entrepreneur, but I feel this way on the marketing side of things where there's always, some cool new tool that everyone in your space is talking about or, promoting or working with. And it's like, have you tried this thing? Have you tried that thing? Like really made a big difference in my world. And it's really hard. It's not that I think what's important to remember, it's not that the person saying that is untrustworthy or that you shouldn't take their advice. It's that every single one of those people has a completely different goal. Like you were saying, like some of them are, working on large businesses. Some of them, are trying to, grow their team. Some of that, like they all have a different focus. So it's very easy to get swept up in the oh no, why don't I have, ClickUp and Descript and like all of these different tools that everyone's talking about all the time, even in the Ecamm space, right? Like, why don't I have all this gear? Why don't I have, this crazy studio that looks this way or that way? And a lot of it is, what are you trying to accomplish with it? It's like, is it,
Yeah.
sometimes I think, and I'm guilty of this, my team who are in the chat can probably double down on it, but we want to do all of these new tools and create all these new systems to make things more efficient. And sometimes we over engineer all of it when really, we're a small team and we didn't like a simple email would have solved it. Or like, we've set up this like detailed automation to do like all of these different things. And it's like, well, now there's like 6 steps in that. Whereas like if we had just gotten on a call, it would have been 1, right? So like, I think,
Yep.
yeah, I think it's important for us all to remember that, especially as we're in these like spaces where we are networking with each other and everything's very visual. We're able to see what everyone else is doing and hear what everyone else is doing. It's really easy to compare or to get into kind of like a tool overwhelm where it's just
Yep.
too many tools and too many pieces of gear and too many different things to focus on. So yeah, finding what matters to you and reminding yourself of your goals, I think is really hugely important. Something I'm still learning and reminding myself of on a daily basis for sure.
Yeah, and we're all still a work in progress. Like it's, for me, you talk about that, we over engineer.
Oh
Like the
yeah,
ClickUp video that took off
yeah.
was I made the big mistake with ClickUp, and that's what I did. I over engineered it, create all these departments, and did all of this stuff, and then I
Yeah.
was like, "Where's the stuff that I'm supposed to be working on?" And
I may
so,
have to go back and
and
watch
that's
that
what
video because I'm definitely I'm like ClickUp. I'm a type A person where I'm like, well, I've now built this entire thing and here are like all the different spaces and whatever. I'm like, okay, but there's only 2 people that are working in this system. Do I need this all? Do I need all this? Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I
Yeah.
created sales and
Yeah.
created marketing
Yeah.
and created operations, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's just me. It's
Yep.
me and 2 other VAs. I'm like, I don't need that. I created a, Fortune 500 complexity in ClickUp that I didn't need. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but that's really what I try to do is just when I get into coaching, and that's what I'm going to be doing a lot more this year
That's
with our
awesome.
live streams, is just teaching people that foundational stuff so they can build a calm business.
Yeah.
For me, a calm business is family first. A calm business is one that you run, not the other way around.
Mm.
It's not 80, 90 hours a week. It's
Yeah.
sustainable business practices. And like it, I think about all the stuff that's available, and I'm like, man, if I had this stuff when I was 14, holy crap. Like
You would
there's
have had
so many
10
things I
bikes.
could do.
You
Yeah.
would have had all the bikes. The bike store would have been yours.
It's
Yeah.
like I would have been the bike dealer. I'm like, come on. Uh,
Oh
but yeah,
gosh. Yeah.
and I think that's what I love with the Ecamm community is people that want to help and that are trying to build businesses that fit them.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what another one of those hidden gifts in COVID is people started to rethink priorities.
Yeah.
We started to finally rethink our unhealthy love affair of work,
Yeah. And put
especially
back.
here in the
Yeah.
state.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, create a life that you want. Like there's so many ways of doing that now more than ever that
Hmm.
it's quite easily capable. Like the technology, the gear, all that stuff. You don't need a whole lot. You really don't need a whole lot.
Yeah.
And I think
What?
there's so many people out there that have so many things to give yet.
Hmm.
And it's just that fear of putting themselves out there. That's what I try to help people with too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking more what you said a few minutes back about what I definitely have identified in myself as this kind of like reactive habit when it comes to work, right? So, which I'm trying desperately to break, and it's been interesting seeing what I think Eden from Camo. I follow her on LinkedIn, and she had posted
Yep.
about this, and I was like, oh man, yeah, I'm working my way through it. I'm still guilty of this, but I definitely have had, and continue to have many days where I come in and it's like first thing in the morning. I'm probably the most creative in the morning. I wouldn't say I'm like a morning person, but I'm most creative in those early morning hours. And I've done myself the favor of blocking off that time, at least the first like hour of my day,
Yeah.
where I'm like, I'm not doing any meetings or calls. Like I don't want to talk to anyone at that time in the morning. But then I get in this bad habit of like, I've got to check the boxes. So I'm doing all of those reactive things. I'm like, checking Agora Pulse, even though I don't, that's not even my job. I'm just like in someone else's job being obnoxious. And then I'm answering, emails, and I'm checking the community for like anything comes up. And I'm looking, on our Slack to make sure I haven't missed any important messages. And then all of a sudden, my whole hour, if not 2 hours of my morning is gone. And then I'm like, all of those things have, spawned a bigger to-do list. So now I'm putting out that fire and I'm putting out that fire, and then all my afternoon calls that I pushed afternoon. So I spend the whole day being really, really reactive. And I know that a lot of it is because of that intentionality first thing in the morning. It's because I've like started the day instead of, maybe instead of being like, okay, what are my large projects? Like what's my actual to-do list and what are those things that I could be using my creative mind on? I'm just dealing with all the incoming stuff, which I could move that to the afternoon and finish my day with that. And I would still be responsive as I plan to be and want to be with it. I just being intentional about changing when some of those times are, I'm letting that kind of dictate my entire day and my entire week. And it changes like your perspective, and it stops you from working on those bigger projects. And then by the time you get to them, you're tired because you spent the whole day dealing with all the other stuff. So yeah, yeah. What's your advice? How do you is it just blocking off time differently? Is it just being aware of it and being more intentional? How are you instructing people on how to get out of that? What I know I'm in it. How do I get how do I get out of it? What are the steps?
You already touched on part of it because that's where I start with people is I have them open up their calendar. When I'm on a coach one-on-one coaching call, that's what I do. Open up your calendar, show me what your week looks like. And one of two
Cover your
things
eyes,
happens.
everyone.
Either like every single second is blocked out
Yeah.
or nothing is blocked out.
Yep.
And I love the idea of task batching or, whatever you want to call it, calendar batching, task batching.
Yep.
But for me, is kind of eliminating the amount of times you have to switch mental gears during the day.
Oh, good point.
And that for me as an entrepreneur, because you could easily go from marketing to sales to doing tech support for
Yep.
with a staff member or figuring out something on your website. Those take two completely different parts of your brain.
Very true.
And that's where I started segmenting, okay, Mondays are kind of a slow day. Like I don't plan any meetings on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
But we like to feel that sense of accomplishment at the beginning of the week.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I schedule all of those things, like you said, all of that little minutia tasks that I can just check off real quick
Yep.
and feel like I've got the ball rolling for the week.
Mm-hmm.
But figuring what that works out for you. I have certain days of the week where I am more creative, have more energy, and those are the days I do my content creation. So
Yep.
I have that time and that day blocked off for that. And this can change. I mean, it can change with, your schedule, but
Mm-hmm.
taking those things that are priority, there's, all the different stuff in your business, whether it's, but having time on your calendar to deal with those things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a sales block where I just work on sales, or I work on marketing, or I work on operations, which are those automations, things that I can look at my schedule and how do I make technology work a little bit easier for me.
Yep.
But I have time on my calendar during the week to deal with those.
Mm-hmm.
So when I have things come up for me, if everything's floating around in my brain, I get overwhelmed and I get like it takes away the calm. It makes me super anxious. But knowing that I have a day of the week and a time block set aside, like If something comes up, I got to fix something and it's not immediate. Okay, that goes on my to-do list for that operations day or that operations time.
Mm,
So for me,
yeah.
starting there with segmenting days, and it may not work for you. It may not be that you can spend an entire day working on operations or half of a day. But figuring out which parts of your brain work best on which days of the week, what hours of the day, that's where I start.
Yeah.
Um, because you have those things. You've got sales, you've got operations, you've got marketing, you've got accounting, bookkeeping, all the administrative stuff.
Yeah.
But just putting specific times to handle that so that you get it out of your brain and you know that, okay, I don't need to deal with that today. Today's my creative day, or
Mhm.
this is my creative block of time. And again, the hard part's discipline. The hard part's forcing yourself to follow through with that. But
Yeah.
again, that's where use of technology comes in. That's
Yeah.
where focus mode on your iPhone and your iPad and your computer come in, on your Mac. That focus time where everything else goes off and I don't look at social media during those times.
Yeah.
And by the way, I have blocks of time in the morning and in the afternoon to deal with email and social media.
Mhm.
So that takes away part of the temptation for me. I'm like, okay, I've got a time block to take care of emails and social media. But that for me is just blocking that out and iterating from there. That helps an entrepreneur figure out, okay, none of the parts of my business are going to fall through the cracks because I've got them segmented in the course of a week. So I know that I'm going to work on them at some point every single week. And then that's where your to-do list fits around, what you have blocked on your calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah, the least discipline is greater than motivation.
Discipline over motivation. Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that, thank you for confirming that, because that's been on my list for a while. Because I also have, so um I have my, obviously my day-to-day job here at Ecamm, but I volunteer in a couple different places. I'm a parent. There's a bunch of like other obligations as well, and so I've been trying to think more about like, okay, on like Fridays, from this time period to this time period where it's quieter with Ecamm stuff, like I'm going to block off that time where I'm working on, a lot of my volunteer stuff, because that's like slipping through the cracks, or it's ending up in these like weird time spots where like it's not benefiting that organization, and it's not helping me, like it's getting in the way of my work stuff, and it's causing like all these different issues. So yeah, I like the idea of kind of laying out your week, and the days, because there's a consistency to it, right? It's like every Monday I'm going to do this, every Tuesday I'm going to do this. It gets, I think, even if you don't always follow it to the T, I think it gets you in a good rhythm. And I think we all thrive in routine, right? Even if it's sometimes hard to set up those habits and get into a routine, it makes it easier to think it through.
It does, and like it's, and again, that's what to me, the whole idea, the concept of work life balance for us as entrepreneurs, like
Yeah.
it's just life,
Yeah.
like our
I know.
work and our
I
life,
know.
it's life.
We're all like, we need to find work-life balance. We need to find work-life balance. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, so we're all like thinking about our mental health and how we can. But I think I think you're right. It's not even so much like it's like life balance as an entrepreneur. Like work and life are
Yeah,
intertwined so much, and it's not. I feel like we have this mentality where we're trying to like separate out the two and give them both room. Where it's like, no, how, like they are, in many cases, especially for Americans, North Americans, they're really intertwined. So like how do you make them work together instead of just balancing them? It's, how do you, I guess it's more like, how do you find balance and calm, like you're saying, in the day to day.
yeah,
None of that is going to like work, especially in this space, is going to be, it's going to ebb and flow. There's going to be busier times. There's going to be opportunities that come up, and you can't be like, well, no, I'm not doing any calls on Tuesday. So when Apple calls and wants to do all of these awesome projects with me, I'm like, nope, no calls on Tuesday. Yeah. Doc says there's no work-life balance. There's only one life. Yeah. So I think we need to
yeah,
think about it differently, but also in a way that is really respectful of calm, and of being proud at the end of your day that you feel like you've accomplished things, but also that you're not feeling, manic and beside yourself, and in that phase of just feeling like you have too much on your plate. So it's hard.
yeah.
None of it's easy, that's for sure.
like you said too, like that's also part of that process. You have to set that time aside for personal, for family. Like that's calendar blocked as well.
Yep.
And again, that can rotate through a course of a week. It could
Right.
change. Like next week doesn't look like this week, but I know that that's important, and I schedule somewhere in that given week for
Yep.
self development,
Yeah.
for spending time with my family,
Yep.
and doing those quality things. But again, like I said, it's just if it's calendar block for me, I don't think about it.
Yeah.
And Sunday nights I look at my week coming up, and I got to move my content creation from Thursday to Wednesday.
Yep.
I mean, that's okay. That's what this week presents me.
Not being afraid to move that around. I know I live and die by my calendar, and I have like all these like layers. I would probably stress everyone out, but I like have this like layers of, I have like a color coding system, right? So I have my calendar,
Yep.
like my work calendar, my like family calendar that I'm sharing. I have visibility into like coworkers' calendars, my husband's calendar, and they're all kind of layered on top of this, one view, so that when, same as you, like Sunday night, I'm looking across the week, I can say like, oh, I'm taking my son to a soccer game on Wednesday night. So, I'm going to need to shift this other stuff around, or I need to give myself this block of time to be able to like get home, get some food, get everyone into the car and get back out. Like you have
Yep.
to be able to, even if you have everything on the calendar, the thought isn't that it's there and it's etched in stone so much as it gives you a level of visibility to be able to say, oh, whoops, like I didn't plan this out well enough, or I accepted all these things and now I need to make these shifts, or oh, I have these couple of open times. I should figure out what the best approach for that is. Like, oh, Tuesday morning is really open. Maybe that would be a really great opportunity to do some, mid-year check-in or brainstorming for a project that's important to me, or professional development with learning how to use some of these tools, right? The 9,000 tools
Yep.
you've signed up for. I like, that's something I'm always like, oh, I should do, like spend more time trying to learn some of these tools so I really understand them well. It's yeah, time management is one of those tricky things. I'm glad there are people like you out there that are helping entrepreneurs through it, because it's so, it can, again, it's I was saying it too much this time around, but it can feel really isolating when you are doing many different things, and again, the internet makes it so visible to see what everyone else is doing that sometimes you're like, oh, like how is how are Doc and Luis and Dan so on top of everything, and I feel like a hot mess, and there's, we're all kind of figuring out our own systems at work, and everything is definitely editable. So it's good to
Yes.
hear. It's good to hear that. It good to kind of hear that reiterated, because it's, sometimes I definitely get in these places where I'm like, well, I said I would do this, so now I need to be at these different things, instead of approaching it like, actually, I could reach out to that person and make this a little bit shorter, or I could shift this up a bit or down, or I can move these things around. Yeah,
Yeah.
Paul, to be careful we don't turn something we like into something we don't. I know that's, I will give super credit to Ken and to Glenn and just the team here, in that one of the number one things that we are always stressing as a team is like, is this fun? Like, is this something we want to do, or are we just like convinced ourselves that this is something we need to be doing? And I think that's, that should be how most entrepreneurs, and so like there's a reason why you wanted to work for yourself or be in a particular environment. Like, is it what you want to be doing? Are you passionate about it? Is it fun? Is it fun?
Yeah.
Is it fun? I'm busy. Yeah, Doc has to make time for Manchester United, because obviously. So
Yes.
yeah, but we do. We need to make time for those important things. Well,
Yeah.
Andrew,
And
is there
I think
anything else we didn't cover? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, please.
I was just going to make one more point on that too. Is
Yeah.
like, don't feel guilty about it. Like so much of what we do is because we feel guilty because of somebody else's expectation.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
as we're allowed to reset expectations.
100%.
That's the other
So true.
license we have as entrepreneurs.
One more time for those in the back. Yeah. No, it's so true. It's so true.
And
Absolutely.
that was hard for my family, especially like at the beginning of COVID. I'm like, okay, like the
Yeah.
first 8 weeks of COVID, I had so many people trying to, okay, how do I go virtual? I need your help. I need your help. And like,
Yeah.
it was like I had a tech business all over again. And after that 8 weeks, I'm like, I should put my phone in D and D. I'm like, look, I got no notifications, no red bubbles on my phone. And I had to reset expectations with family and friends. I'm like, that's what I need to keep my mental health and for me to keep going.
Yep.
And I'm sorry if you don't like that, but that's my box right now. That's what we're putting the phone where it belongs. And again, we're allowed to do that. I'm like, that's what I need to maintain. So, and again, that's my whole mantra of that. The theme of my show, by the way, is do what is necessary. That's my do. And then again, that's doing what is necessary for me is not the same for everybody. Yeah. And I think that's the license we have as entrepreneurs. Do what's good for you. Do what works for you. And for me, that's all about helping other people. So.
Oh, I love it. Well, on that note, we will wrap. I don't see everyone's just like re-quoting you and sharing their insights. I have to copy and paste the chat. I don't see a ton of questions. But Andrew, I really appreciate you taking the time to be on and being patient while I was like, I can't say things because everything is going crazy. So I'm glad we got it sorted out. It looks like I'm in the market for some new headphones or some kind of solving problems later. But I really appreciate, and I think it was a great time to talk about a lot of this because again, this is the month where we're all thinking a lot about like balance and calm and our own mental health and the boundaries that we all need to set. So I think it's great to have someone on that is in this space. It's super important, the work that you're doing. Entrepreneurs especially are in need of some of that reset and some of that guidance. So thank you. And all of you listening and watching, as usual, everyone that I bring on the show is in the community, on Discord, accessible. So definitely click through and find Andrew, and chat with him and learn from him and spend time, because I think it's super important that we all support each other and get to know each other better, because there's so many people in the Ecamm fam that are doing absolutely remarkable things, and it's just really great to this show is entirely selfish. I get to spend time with all of you and learn from you and get to ask all of my questions. So it's just great to see what everyone's up to. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Katie.
Absolutely. All right, over here for promo. So if you, in case you missed it, Creator Camp is coming up October 11 through 13. We are selling out quickly and we only have 100 spaces. So if you are not yet on that list, swing on over to ecamm.tv/creatorcamp. Doc and Paul and Luis are all going to be there. Ken and Glenn. We have like every single one of our influencers and experts are going to be there. It's going to be an absolutely incredible time. We hope that you will come. It's in Massachusetts. Leaf peeping season. It's going to be beautiful. So we hope that you will join us for Creator Camp. And if you have any questions, you can always email me. I am katie@ecamm.com. You're welcome to email over if you have any questions about Creator Camp or anything else. And yeah, if you can help me figure out what happened this morning, I'll have to talk with Doc and everyone else to sort it out. But from all of us here, thank you so much for making time. Luis wants to know, I think Andrew's still here. No, Andrew said he's trying. He's going to see whether he can get there. But yeah, I think it's a busy time of year. We debated we're like, ooh, October, but I think it's a nice way to finish off the year, and it's a beautiful time of year. So people are coming in from all across the world, so it'll be nice to be all together. But yeah, it's midweek, so hopefully that makes it a little easier for people if they want to do stuff on the weekends. It's right after Canadian Thanksgiving, so that's important. But that's out of the way for all of us Canadians out there. I think it'll be great. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us, and we will
time for another road trip.
Yeah, exactly. Love a road trip. I still want to go all the way across. I haven't done like the Grand Canyon or any of the like traditional Americana things. That's on my list for one of these years, a big road trip. I'll have to do like an Ecamm road trip.
There we go.
Awesome. Well, have a great day, everyone. And if you are watching and want to be on the show in a future episode, you can always email me at katie@ecamm.com, and I'd love to have you on. Thanks so much, Andrew. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.